I'm Annie. I'm going to analyze the Japanese film called Dreams and talk about my reflections on Japanese society and environmental issues and war and peace. This is my agenda of the presentation. Firstly, I will talk about basic introduction of the film and what issues to focus on, and then I will analyze several important dreams which are Sunshine Through the Rain, Peach Orchard and Mountain Fuji in Red, and the Tunnel. Dreams refer to a series of images, ideas, emotions, and sensations occurring involuntarily in the mind during certain stages of sleep. Each person's dream may reflect a person's current inner emotions or subconscious thinking. The film Dreams Yumi in Japanese, directed by Akira Kurosawa, consists of 8 dreams, which talks about 8 different stories. And each story is trying to express an idea as well as an attitude towards the society in Japan. Connecting the plots of this story to the points we mentioned in class, we could find hegemony, complexity of the identity, eco-critical principles, and colonialism. Since I'm personally interested in Japanese culture, by analyzing how dreams utilize Japanese cultural elements to show Akira's reflection on society, nature, and world at his age, I hope to focus on how these cultural elements help me gain insights of various aspects of Japanese life, traditions, and historical context, and use what I learned from Akira's thoughts to reflect on my own life. In the first dream, Sunshine Through the Rain, it introduces a Japanese folktale which says that when the sun is shining through the rain, foxes have their wedding in the forest in such weather, and they do not like this ceremony to be seen by others. However, the protagonist in this story, the little boy, was curious about such a ceremony and tried to look at it secretly behind the tree, shown in this picture, even though his mother told him not to do so. However, we can tell that he was discovered by foxes because the foxes in this picture did a sniffing motion, implying that they had felt the smell of humans. After he came home, his mother found that he did what was forbidden. And the foxes were so mad at him that he gave a knife to the mother and asked her to tell the boy to beg forgiveness from the foxes. In the end, the boy went into the mountain and ended his life by himself, shown by this picture. In this scenario, we can conduct our cultural study based on the folktale, and the folktale can effectively reflect people's thoughts, acknowledgement, and ideology towards the whole society and culture. Through this folktale, we could interpret that culture in Japan has a strong respect to gods and rules. Everyone should obey this rule without any exceptions. Even the son violates the rule. His mother asks him to beg forgiveness from the god and commits suicide. In Japan's culture, Mikado, the emperor of Japan, has absolute authority, and everyone in Japan regards Mikado as their god. Everyone should obey every order of Mikado and even die for him if necessary, which is also called as Bushido. Moreover, in the end of the story, the little boy commits seppuku, which is cutting belly, and this is a typical characteristic of Bushido. The features and plots in this story can help us understand what Bushido is as well as how it influences Japanese culture and people's cognition in society. In addition, this story reflects a topic mentioned in class, the existence of hegemony. The children's book we discussed in class was Where the Wild Things Are, and the hegemony in this book was shown by that the protagonist went to bed without dinner since his mother asked him to do so, and he has no way for negotiation. In fact, the first story of Dreams shares something in common with the children's book mentioned above. When the boy's mother asked him to beg forgiveness from the fox and commit suicide, he completely obeyed this order and ended his life in the mountain. The mother's rigor, the boy's obedience, and their common belief to the fox's tale show that in hegemony, ideas, values, and beliefs are not imposed above. Neither do they develop in a free and accidental way, but are negotiated through a whole series of encounters and collisions between classes, and he has no choices but to obey the rules and the belief. The boy in this story represents those people in lower class of Japan's society, and the mother stands for the ruling class. And the foxes there can somehow represent Mikado. Ruling class has hegemony over lower classes, while Mikado has absolute authority to the ruling classes. And this is how hierarchy in Japan acts, which is also named as feudalism. Between the 20th and 19th century, feudal Japan has an elaborate four-tier class system. The Japanese feudal class structure placed merchants over on the lowest rung. Confucian ideas emphasized the importance of productivity, so peasants had higher status than shopkeepers in Japan, and the samurai class, represented in this picture, had the most prestige of all. By analyzing the deeper meaning of this stream, we have a more well-rounded understanding of Japanese absolute authority of Mikado and hegemony exists in the society. Reflecting on these connections can help me consider the way in which hegemony operates in my own life and empower me to critically evaluate and challenge dominant ideologies and power structures. The second scene in Dream is the peach orchard, which tells the story that on the spring day of Hinamatsuri, the doll festival, which is celebrating the daughter's growth, a boy follows a small girl dressed in pink outside to where his family peach orchard once was. Because the boy's family chopped down the trees of the orchard, the dolls berate him. However, after realizing that the boys loved the blossoms and did not want the trees to be cut, they agreed to give him one last look at the orchard as it once was. They perform a dance to Itenaraku, a classical Japanese melody and dance that causes the blossoming trees to reappear. The boys run after the girl in blossom tree, but she and the tree suddenly vanish. He walks back sadly until he sees a single young peach tree in full blossom sprouting in her place. This story tries to tell an idea of how to maintain the relationship between human and nature. The corresponding concept mentioned in class is eco-criticism, which is a critical study in literature that investigates humanity's relationship to the environment. The peach orchard stands for nature in this scenario, and the boy's family represents human beings, while the boy himself can be regarded as the balance between human and nature. In addition to the idea of natural conservation expressed by the idea, Akira is trying to use this metaphor to emphasize another proposal: preservation of tradition in Japanese culture. The boys in the story misses the peach orchard. Through the eco-criticism perspective, this is trying to express people's myths for traditional cultures, which might be ignored or forgotten in modern society. While the boy represents people from the past, they miss this culture but could no longer find them. The girl, including the blossoming trees, are imaginary in the story. This reflects a nostalgia of traditional culture and life. The orchard symbolizes the ephemeral nature of life, as peaches bloom and wither, reflecting the transience of human existence. Eventually, the girl and those blossoming trees vanish, which represents the fact that this culture have already disappeared, but people's nostalgia of tradition as well as nature life in the past lasts forever. Eco-criticism in this scenario conveys the disappearance of natural plants to the vanished traditions in Japanese culture. Instead of expressing people's nostalgia of this tradition directly, he uses the peach orchard and the girl to construct a virtual setting with all this natural stuff in memory come back. Like natural environment, traditions should be well prepared. Once they disappear, nothing can be left except for people's nostalgia of past life and nature. Moreover, we could see some similarity between this dream and another story called Mountain Fuji in Red, which discusses how nuclear power stations affect environments in Japan. Mountain Fuji is the symbol of Japan's nature, and nuclear power stations support electrical consumption in Japan. So the story between Mountain Fuji and power station could be regarded as a trade-off between preservation of natural environments and development of modern society. This story is trying to use interaction between human and the environment to open the discussion of balance between modern construction and conservation of nature and traditional treasure in Japan. Therefore, we could find that the film dreams using eco-criticism in multiple locations for different main ideas. Both dreams not only try to revoke people's attention on environmental conservation, but also uses the concept of environment to emphasize the urgency of preserving traditions in Japan's culture. One interesting thing I figure out is that Akira somehow predicts what is in the future, which is that Japan least radioactive wastewater to the ocean. The fourth theme in this film is called The Tunnel. In this story, a discharged Japanese company commander is walking on his way back home from fighting in World War II. He comes to a pedestrian tunnel. This commander walks through the dark tunnel and comes out on the other side. He is followed by the Yuri, ghost of one of the soldiers, the Gachi, who had died of severe wounds in the commander's arm. The Gachi seems not to believe that he is dead. He points to a light from a house on a nearby mountainside, which he identifies as being his parents' home. He is heartbroken, knowing he cannot see them again, even while he remains respectful to the commander. Following the commander's wish that he accepts his fate, the Gachi returns into the funnel. Through this story, the director is trying to express his stance of pacifism and his understanding of what colonialism brought to people in Japan, as well as how colonialism influenced the whole Japanese culture. In the early 20th centuries, Japan started its colonization action to get sufficient resources for domestic development and colonize and govern in Asia. A series of colonizing expansion indeed helped people win more natural and labor resources. However, this expansion, including wars, also brought severe disaster to people in Japan and has dramatically hurt Japanese culture and society after their loss in World War II. The exact estimation of Japanese who died during the Pacific Theater after Pearl Harbor ranges from 2.6 million to 3.1 million, with combatant deaths estimated at 2.1 million. The conservative estimates would put non-combatant deaths at around 500,000, while the more liberal estimate would be 1 million. Though a large proportion of the Japanese death toll were civilians, most were combatants. As the example we mentioned in class, the colonization of Britain over India indeed provides some raw materials for domestic production in Britain, but it also changed the social structure of Britain to some degree. The colonization of Britain over many parts of the world brought new ideologies, culture, norms, and judgment back to Britain. These cultures are combined and influence the development of British culture. The tunnel also attempts to analyze how colonization impacted domestic culture and cognition, but this analysis focuses on the consequences of colonization in Japan, such as wars, sacrifice in colonizing process. The ghost soldier, the Gachi, can be a representative of all citizens and soldiers in Japan who suffer from colonialism of Japan. They want to go back to their home, but many of them are already dead, so they can never return to their home in dreams. Hometown is destroyed by colonialism. Soldiers are sacrifices for colonization. Citizens are killed in battles, and millions of families are broken. Akira in this scenario used the word of dead soldier to argue that people should reconsider what colonialism brought to Japan. Does it bring more welfare or more disasters to society? Colonialism can sometimes help colonizers get what they want, but it is inevitable that colonizations will change domestic culture and damage themselves. These four plots in the film Dreams implicitly display Erika's thoughts of Japanese culture, society, environmental issues, and war and peace, and offer a nuanced exploration of hegemony, complexity of identity, eco-critical principles, and colonialism, underscoring the interconnectedness of culture, society, and the natural world. Through evocative narrative and visual imaginary, the film invites me to better understand Japanese culture and reflect on the complexities of human experience, the fragility of ecological systems, and the enduring legacies of historical injustice. In doing so, Dreams emerge as a profound meditation on the complexities of the human condition and the imperative of fostering cultural and environmental resilience in an ever-changing world. And this is the reference page. Thanks for listening.